Okay, another reaction. This time is a debate with CharlieKirk. The best gun debated. It literally aged well. He got shot. He's literally like a pro gun.
So I just had a question on.
But he like debate is about religion, politician, crimes, whatever.
On if we need more gun control in the country or not. I'm very pro protecting America and the citizens that live in it, and so I think that we should have more gun control because there's a lot of school shootings that happen, as we mentioned, and I just think it would do a lot to protect people. And I think the Second Amendment also qualifies that we should have regulations.
Just because like he's a pro gun, people start like commenting on social media because like he was a pro gun, so he deserved it. Just talk because he died. Like.
I wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Sure. Do you think gun ownership is a right or a privilege?
I think it's a right, but it comes with responsibilities.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, I think that there should be things in place, things like red flag laws and things like that. The AG just approved Mel Gibson to get his gun rights back, even though he had a domestic violence charge. So, I don't think the people that commit these violent crimes should be able to buy guns and things like that. And I think we should have red flag laws in place to make sure that those violent criminals aren't getting guns.
I agree.
Okay, so let's go. So tell me, in your perfect world, what would constitute a red flag?
Like perfect world, because like what is not black on white is literally gray. He's saying like, hey, if it is a criminal, he cannot buy a weapon. But if he buys, it needs to be registered.
It's like,
people like can get illegally weapons, make 3D prints close to real guns and use it.
Look into any kind of medication and things like that can affect someone's.
That could be dangerous, right? I mean, that could be
gun trafficking, there's a lot.
And that are on a lot of medication. A lot of vets could have their weapons taken away.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying, bless you.
Thank you. It's the pollen or something. Thank you.
I'm not necessarily saying like it's mainly to prevent future shootings and things like that, and also putting in place things like a federal registry so that we know the types of guns that people have, and it would just essentially be a federal registry that shows these are the guns that this person has. In case a cop has to go on something like a domestic call, that's the most dangerous call they can go on. So
I can see you're coming after this from a good perspective. Let me ask one other question. What would you say is the ultimate and final purpose of the Second Amendment?
I think it's self-defense against a tyrannical government, which
we agree. Sure, great. Keep going.
Well, but I think within the Second Amendment, it also implies that we have high regulations in the first 4 words.
Sort of. Well-regulated militia actually meant well-armed, but that's a separate issue. But like,
well, how do you know? You're interpreting what the founding fathers.
Well, they said it in the Federalist Papers, right? So it's not just me, but also in the Heller decision, in the 5-4 decision, that said that gun ownership was a right. This was a hotly debated thing.
But do you disagree? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do you like disagree with the idea of like a federal registry like that?
Oh, without a doubt. The only reason you'd want to register the guns is if you want to confiscate them.
Well, or to make sure that people like officers of law are protected and know what they're going into. I mean, a domestic.
That's a good argument.
Right.
To your credit.
He's well in
where the problem of the government knowing where every gun is would then lead itself towards mass confiscation. And I would agree with you. A well-armed citizenry is the greatest protectorate of liberty and freedom in this country.
Even though the army has.
So he's more afraid of if the government know every citizen has a gun and what type, they can confiscate it. That's like a little irrelevant.
Things like drones and tanks and things like that outarm.
Could buy illegally.
Yes and no. I mean, we've seen it in several instances where at least a citizen. That's a good argument, but I would say a little flawed.
Debate is more like in the perfect world, literally.
To protect themselves in some ways. It's a much harder population to control.
I understand, but so you think a federal registry would infringe on the rights?
Potentially. I mean, I think there's no good argument, I think, other than potential. I ascribe to the government bad motives and bad intentions when it wants to infringe more on these types of freedoms and liberties.
Well, I understand. I just personally don't see it as an infringement because, like we just said, and I think we agreed that owning a gun is a right. However,
yes.
I think
it's a right.
But also I wanted to ask, is voting a right or is that a privilege?
Well, it is a right, and that's so felons can get their
I
rights
feel
back,
like votes is
right?
a right and a
Right.
privilege.
But rights can be suspended or delayed, and we
Right,
both agree
but-
with that. So,
right,
for
but-
example, like somebody in prison doesn't get guns.
Right. No, of course.
Somebody in prison doesn't have the same free speech rights that you
Right,
might have.
but what's the first thing that you have to do if you want to vote in this country? You have to register, right? So it's a federal registration to be able to vote in this country. So why not, and we can agree that, keeping safe and, keeping our elections to where people who shouldn't vote aren't voting is, that's
It's like it's probably registering the gun with documents so that like it's literally irrelevant. Like example, the guy that killed Charlie, he was clean. There's no criminal register, nothing. Like he decided one day I'm going to kill him. The same example me. If I decide like tomorrow I'm going to kill like 2 guys with a knife, I'll do it, even if I don't have a criminal register. Like what?
keeping America safe because we don't want people who
That's a
can't
fair
vote.
point. I would say there's something that there's a technical difference between a voter registration roll and a gun registration
Right, guns
roll.
are much more dangerous.
Well, also, but guns in many different ways, they would go after the guns a lot more than like I don't know, the voter registration roll.
Well, how do we know that?
My worldview comes out of one in the 20th century, where almost every totalitarian government went after the guns first, and the confiscation of guns then leads into the erosion of freedom and liberty.
Right, but wouldn't you say in the 20th century, as you just said, that the disparity between the technology that citizens had to protect themselves compared to what the military had, wouldn't you say that there was a much smaller disparity as opposed to what we see
Somewhat.
nowadays?
I think that's a fair point.
So,
I'm acknowledging that's a fair point.
okay. But
Do you see my perspective as well?
No, I do
that,
understand.
That an
It's-
armed
it's-
citizenry, also it says shall not be infringed, so we have to kind of wrestle with those two things
right, but so
simultaneously.
if it's just a semantics argument, then to that point,
Well, it's
because
not. I mean, semantics is meaning. That's literally what the word means. But
right, but
so,
you're saying because it says shall not be infringed, we can't do anything.
No,
But
no,
does that
I'm
mean,
saying,
does that
though,
mean
that
voting rights can be
I'm
infringed
saying
because it doesn't say it cannot be infringed?
I'm saying I err on the side that more government regulation around guns means that they'll try to take good people's guns away, which then results in less global or let's just say national freedom and liberty.
Struggling to build your sales pipeline? Finding the best prospects feels impossible? Meet Katie, your AI.
What if getting the medicine you need didn't have to be so hard?
My opinion is like people should have guns or weapons to protect himself, but non-lethal, like the 3D printer gun, but the bullets, but rubber. That can make you like fall if you get damage, but doesn't kill you, basically. I think this is like the best option. Should have, but not lethal.
Guns
Yes
would
and
be less
no. I
dangerous.
mean, there's plenty of evidence to show that states that have more. So, like, if you take Houston and Chicago, about comparable populations, Houston actually has warmer weather, which means potentially more gang violence. They have about half, if not even less, the amount of homicides per year than in Chicago. Chicago has much stricter gun laws than Houston, like incredibly strict gun laws.
I understand, but I'm also I think part of what plays into that is the gun laws that are around those cities. They're a lot more lenient than those cities themselves. So I think I'm not saying that's entirely the cause of it, but I'm saying
I've heard
that's
that my whole life, so yeah.
right. But I'm basically just talking about preventing people that have committed crimes such as domestic violence. I know I mentioned Pam Bondi gave Mel Gibson his rights to purchase a gun again, even though he pled guilty to battery domestic violence charge in 2011, and yet now he is able to purchase a gun again, which I disagree with because he committed a violent crime. I mean, do you disagree with that personally?
No, I mean, I don't know the details of the case, but I think I've met Mel Gibson. I think he should be able to own a gun. I mean, like
Just off of speaking to him though, even though with his
yeah, I
criminal
mean,
history. and
I don't.
everything?
Again, I don't know all the details. Do I think that the idea of taking his rights away because of something that happened that I don't know all the details about 14
Well, he
years
pled
ago?
guilty to it though.
Again,
I mean,
I find that to be a little bit of an infringement on basic rights.
even though he
Again,
literally
I don't know the
committed
Because he
violence
thinks
details around
like
that,
having
but I
a
guess we're getting
basic
to a
right.
place where do you think
The same
anyone
is
that's convicted of
trusting
violent
human
crimes should be able
beings
to own guns again?
to be
If
civilized.
they're committing a violent crime, absolutely not. I think we should protect people in America, which I think you agree with, and I think
Yeah, but
that is how we protect America.
that's a balance. Are we going to really say the federal government is going to protect us from ourselves when it comes to guns?
No, I mean it's less about the federal government taking away guns and more just allowing them to protect their citizens. And it's not about getting rid of guns. I'm a gun owner myself. I go hunting. I was on a competitive
What
team.
state would you say has the gun laws that are the most appealing to your worldview?
I don't know specific state laws, if I'm being completely honest with you, but
something to think about.
But I'm speaking, even just the federal registry itself. I think that would protect, a lot of officers of the law. Like I said, when they go on domestic calls, that's the most dangerous call that an officer.
So there's an informal registry, not a formal one. Just gun dealers are supposed to report.
Right, but do you really
sales.
think that they do all the time? Though?
No, of course not. Obviously, I mean,
right.
I
So
live in
would the
reality.
federal registry eliminate that problem? Then?
Again, I would go back to a formal registry. You register in order to confiscate. It is a prerequisite towards confiscation.
Isn't that just a slippery slope argument, though? If you give one thing, then another thing.
It's a historical argument, right? We see that throughout totalitarian dictatorships throughout the 20th century, where if you want to take the weapons away, you first ask for a collection of all the items that you then want to collect. But I could see it, you're coming after this in good faith. I tend to be on a much more libertarian side, even though I'm not libertarian. We actually need looser gun laws because I think that oh yeah.
À altura de saber quanto vale o seu carro?
This
Então
publicity
compramos
is
o seu
annoying.
carro.pt.
Yeah, I mean, especially in states like Chicago and Illinois, where it's very basic Second Amendment rights. So I'll give you a great example. In a state like Rhode Island or New York, it could take a woman upwards of 30 days to get a gun. So let's say a man wants to actually do harm to her, and she gets threats and the police won't intervene. I think she should be able to get a gun that afternoon to protect herself.
I understand that.
So in that case, I think that gun laws should be looser.
I understand.
I think
in that regard, I do agree with you.
Cool. So that would be an instance of that. And I also will go back to this idea of red flag laws. We have seen case after case of it being abused, of veterans having their weapons taken away because of fake accusations and, let's just say, faulty accusations, saying that they're mentally unbalanced, so on and so forth.
But do you think that they could investigate cases like that and see if there aren't any medications? I mean, a lot of these antidepressants can change your brain chemistry.
For sure, and some of it, though, is they take the guns away first and they ask questions after. It's a difficult, very, I don't want to say gray area, but
it's a gray
part
area
of the law where I tend to, in a respectable position, respect to you, I tend to err on the side of it is a right. The government screws up more than it does correct in this specific portion, and the downside to having more guns is far better than the downside of having only the government have guns.
Even if that can cost American lives, though? I mean, me personally, I would give up all of my guns in a heartbeat if I knew for a fact that it was going to save one life.
Can I do a thought experiment to you?
Sure.
So, do you think we should ban driving?
No, I don't think so. And I know where you're going with this.
55,000 people a year die from car accidents, right?
Right, so absolutely. But those are accidents, though. That's not someone intentionally going and killing somebody. Well, that's not true.
Some people intentionally do, or some people have DUIs, right? Some of it is an act of agency, not just accidents, right? Meaning that they are reckless with the technology.
I understand.
I feel like, what? What? Like,
you would agree a DUI is a reckless act.
Oh, for sure.
And that's a vast majority of auto deaths, both in the interior of the vehicle and the exterior.
Right, but then what do you have to do to be able to drive?
He's comparing like driving to a gun. Like you can run over. You know, you should like, bro. When you run over his accident, and you try to kill his what? But it's a lot harder to kill somebody with a car. Like you need to be in the streets.
It's one of the prime.
With a gun, you can kill him everywhere.
Primary focus is you have to balance liberty and safety, and that's a tough balance at times. I fall on this issue on the side of liberty. Final thought.
So what? Yeah, just one last quick question, I promise. What about something, as I mentioned, with taking a driving test to be able to get a driver's license, you have to prove that you know how to operate the vehicle safely. What about something similar to that with owning a gun? Some kind of thing where you go to a range with a trained professional, you show that you know how to operate the gun, safely, know how to store it safely, things like that. Yet, and then once you pass that, you get some kind of card that allows you to buy a gun.
I mean,
it's all about protections. It's not about restricting rights.
On that, you might have some agreement with this, because actually the number one cause of errant gun deaths is accidental discharges. People that don't know what they're doing with their gun. And so I think that could be prevented through better training. So for that, I actually might have some middle ground.
Okay, I appreciate it. Hope you and your family had a blessed Easter. God bless everybody.
God bless you. Great job. Thank you.
Oh, that was polite.
The mission statement.
I'll be honest. The people should only use little guns or like militaries that in war. More than that is like nope.